their experience in the program. And also, I do not vote on the committee. So I'm just here to kind of share information with you. We're very transparent about our admissions practice and our selection process and things like that. So if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer once I give this brief presentation. Once I finish the presentation, I'll have our medical students introduce themselves, and then we'll open it up for questions. All right, so the Keck School of Medicine, for those of you who don't know, we're located in Los Angeles. We're in East Los Angeles in a neighborhood called Boyle Heights. It's about 10 minutes east of the downtown Los Angeles area. We're on our own health sciences campus, which is separate from the University Park campus, the main USC campus. We're about 20-minute drive from that campus. So on our campus, we have our main training hospital, which is the LAC. Actually, it's called Los Angeles General. They just went through a little name change. Los Angeles General Medical Center. We also have the Keck Medical Center on our campus. We have the USC Norris Cancer Research Hospital on our campus, and we have affiliations with a network of hospitals in the area, most notably Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, White Memorial, and a number of other hospitals in the greater Los Angeles region. Keck also has about over 20 different research institutes that are affiliated with Keck. So our students can make research the biggest part of their medical education as they like. Some of the more notable names of the research institutes that we are affiliated with are the Saban Research Institute, which is affiliated with the Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, the Eli Broad Center for Regenerative Medicine, and a number of others. And I'm going to put a link after I finish the presentation in the chat, and we'll have links to all of those entities under the Keck umbrella that you can visit their website and find more information. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, so I represent the MD program. We also have an MD PhD program, and the Keck School of Medicine has two other undergraduate BS programs, Global Health and Health Promotion and Disease Prevention as well. The Keck Medicine, under that educational umbrella, we have 22 different master's degree programs, 10 different PhD programs. So it's a pretty big kind of three-pronged approach to serving the community here in Southern California, education, healthcare, and research. Some features of our program, we have a full service wellness program or office that has a wellness curriculum built into the regular MD curriculum. They serve, out of all of the students, we have a number of different other academic programs here on Keck, but they are dedicated to our MD students. We have a great learning and academic support unit that provides one-on-one academic counseling. They sponsor peer-led tutoring programs, workshops. They have all manner of resources for our med students to take advantage of, and they're available for one-on-one appointments and consulting. As part of the MD curriculum, the didactic portion of the curriculum is organ system learning, and each organ system is 4 to 6 weeks long, culminating in a pass-fail exam. So creates or makes for a very collaborative student body. And I think that's a pretty great feature of our program. We also have a health justice and systems of care component to the curriculum. It's a part of the 4-year curriculum of the MD program, and all of our graduating students get a certificate in health justice and systems of care, where the main focus is identifying disparities in the provision of health care, learning how to enact organizational change and advocate on the behalf of patients. Our diversity and inclusion is a hub for many of our affinity student interest groups, such as Latino Medical Student Association, Student National Medical Association, Med Lambda, and others. I think we have well over 30 different groups, affinity groups. Uh, uh, Affinity groups, as well as leisure clubs and other social groups. So a lot of ways to get involved in the community. A lot of the SIGs cover, or their mission is basically community engagement based and rooted in a medical subspecialty, such as like cardio or reproduction or surgery. And they all have mentors for each of their clubs. It's a way for students to, they have professionals come in and talk about their experiences. People from the patient care community come in and talk about their experiences. They do outreach to educational outreach to schools and things like that. So a lot of ways to get involved for our students. Our residency match is typically 97% each year. The highest rated or the highest matched specialty this past March was internal medicine. We had 37 people go into internal medicine, followed by 16 people in psychiatry. The total match was 174 people, and like I said, 97.7 of them matched in a specialty. And I think it was 78% of them matched in a California residency program as well. Our class, sorry, I'm looking at a slide here that I wish I could show, but we're having some technical difficulties with that. But our class size is 120 students accepted each year. Average age is about 23. We usually have slightly more women than men this year, or this last incoming class was 63 women to 57 men. The median MCAT is 518 from that class. I think the range on that was like 505 to 525. 36 folks were underrepresented in medicine among that group, 8 different countries of origin, and 17 different languages spoken. So a pretty diverse group of people in the class, and it's pretty much the ratio is pretty equivalent year after year. The application cycle, I'm sure many of you know, started in May. Our secondary application deadline is December 1st of this year. We'll be interviewing. We started interviewing at the beginning of October. We'll interview all the way through February of next year, and probably into March, depending on how things go. Pretty straightforward our application process. We don't require any specific academic coursework for eligibility, application eligibility. So we leave it open so that you can prepare in the way that best suits your individual circumstances. We recommend that applicants to our school have some Spanish language skills, but we don't evaluate for that. It's just purely a recommendation. We do require that applicants take the MCAT and that they submit letters of recommendation, though. We use traditional interviews. All applicants that are accepted into the program must be interviewed. There'll be traditional interviews, one student and one faculty member, usually about 30 to 40 minutes. Very low key, low stress. We try to make it as comfortable as possible for our applicants. Each applicant will meet with the interviewer. They're all virtual. They have been on Zoom since the pandemic. and it looks like it's going to be that way for the foreseeable future. Once you're interviewed, your interview evaluation goes to a group of 3 faculty members and 1 student, and they decide whether to admit you, waitlist you, or not accept you. And that usually takes about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on where we are in the application cycle. What do they look for, you ask? Well, they look for the AMCAS core competencies. I'm sure you've seen those on the AAMC website. If you go to their website, and I'll have a link, I'll post a link in the chat in just a few minutes. At the top of the list for us is service orientation. We look for people that want to come to Southern California and learn the practice of medicine while serving this community of folks here in this area. So we hope that people, are aware of our mission and our ties to the communities here and want to come and be a part of providing healthcare to that community. Ethical responsibility to self and others, interpersonal skills, teamwork and collaboration, communication skills, all of the basic core requirements that that we would hope that people bring to the program with them. And with that, I'm going to ask that the 2 students that joined us, Claire and Jeremy, if you 2 wouldn't mind just introducing yourself, letting us know a little bit about your interests, and then we'll open it up for questions, if that's okay. Let's start with you, Claire.
Okay. Hi, my name is Claire Olivas. I'm from Houston originally. I graduated in Hopkins in 2022. I studied chemical and biomolecular engineering, and then I spent my gap year working for Johnson and Johnson as a pharma rep. Um, and then eventually I accepted USC, and that's where I am now as an M1. And I'm currently interested in oncology, probably mostly because that was what I did during my gap year. But if anyone has any questions on, I guess, doing like a non-conventional gap year like I did, or studying engineering and getting into medicine, I'm happy to answer any of those questions.
Jeremy?
Everyone. My name is Jeremy Telezing. I'm originally here from SoCal, but went to Hopkins, graduated class of 2023. I studied public health. Before coming here to Keck, I did a gap year doing research at the Bloomberg School of Public Health. And I'm an M1, same as Claire, and I'm interested in like emergency medicine. And so I've kind of like dabbled a little bit in like what that's like in terms of, how to kind of go that direction in med school. So if you have any questions, let me know.
Great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate you both for joining me. So if you want, you can post your questions in the chat. You can raise your Zoom hand. Either way, we hope to get to everyone and answer any questions that you have. So Jeremy, what made you decide to choose Keck?
Um, I think a piece of me was really like open to coming back home after having left California for so many years. And yeah, like just to be around family and friends and like a very, difficult transitional period of life. It's just very nice.
Yeah, yeah, totally understandable. What about you, Claire?
I definitely wanted a change of location. Um, I had the East Coast. I grew up kind of in the Southwest area, and then I did my gap year in Miami and Philly. So I wanted to explore the West Coast, and then I had some friends that lived over here. But I think just the culture too, like it's so warm, I guess, and comforting, and everyone's very laid back, which I appreciate a lot instead of the East Coast, which to me is very like stress, high pace.
Yeah, yeah. We do have a couple of questions in the chat. See, one question, and either of you can jump on in. Do you have a preference on research? Oh, I think I'll take this one. Do you need to have publications. You don't need to have publications, and we don't have a preference for research. It depends. It varies. Every year, I kind of do a quick little survey of our incoming class, and I found that the research hours can range from like 20 to 30 hours or so to thousands of hours. It just depends on what your interests are. So yeah, if you talk up research in your personal statement and experiences section, then they're going to expect to see more of you there. But it's not a big evaluation point for us. But we do expect you to have a little bit of research. You don't need to have publications if you do the MD PhD program, you don't necessarily need publications to be accepted into that either, but that really helps if you do have any publications. Okay, question number 2, during a gap year, is there specific activities that you're looking for in an individual to do, or can they choose to do anything they like? Yeah, that runs the gamut. I've seen and talked to people who have took a gap year just to kind of decompress from undergraduate school and just kind of relax. I've talked to people who work to save money, people that just wanted to travel around or do some educational enrichment activity that they didn't feel they would be able to do once they started medical school. So that really runs the gamut. And I heard Claire mention that she took a gap year. I was wondering what were your reasons for taking a gap year?
Well, for me, it was more, I kind of had to take a gap year because I decided on going to medicine, I guess, a little later than most people. So I hadn't taken the MCAT by the time I graduated. So I knew that that would mean I had to take at least 2 gap years. And then I needed money to support myself. So that's kind of why I took a gap year. And then I also took a few post-bac classes since I studied engineering. So I didn't have all the requirements yet.
Did you take a gap year, Jeremy?
Yeah, I did. I did research at the Bloomberg School of Public Health, like at the hospital campus at Hopkins.
Okay. See, another question here is, what do you think distinguishes, we're moving around here a little bit. Sorry about that. Sorry. I'm on this little laptop and I wasn't prepared that was going to be so
Oh.
different. What do you think distinguishes Keck from other California medical schools? I'll just say what I believe, and then I'll let Jeremy and Claire jump in if they'd like. I think one of the things, I think all medical schools have pretty much the same basic things that they provide to students. But I think one thing that I like about the Keck School of Medicine, there are a couple of things. One, I like the collaborative environment here that I see between students and faculty and staff. Is very chill kind of environment. I think most people are pretty approachable here. A lot of opportunities because of this big apparatus, this infrastructure here that they have here built already. Education, like I mentioned, the programs that they have, research. I mean, I think we're ranked 20 something in the country in research. I think we're '1 for National Institutes of Health individual researcher or investigator funding. And healthcare. We have a big network of training hospitals that our students, have the opportunity to train in. And I think all of that just creates an environment where it's a pretty vibrant environment to learn in. And we have an early immersion doctor-patient relationship skills training program that I think is very beneficial to our students. But I'll let Jeremy and Claire speak to that.
I think that one of the first thing that's kind of stood out to me, starting here about like 2 or so months ago, was just like how well Keck selects their class. They really do select people that they feel will, work together, get along with each other, and kind of like cultivate a culture of, collaborativity and just like, academic success, right? In a way, I think that it's been incredible just how supportive everyone is, and it's not only just students, but the faculty as well. I feel every time I enter any room that involves anybody from Keck, it's just amazing. And That's just one aspect. I think another is the kind of population that we're serving, given the location of like the HSC campus here. It's just so rich in culture and diversity, and with LA General, you're just getting a really broad patient body that like you probably wouldn't get if you were just, you know, seeing patients at Keck and experience learning medicine through that lens.
Yeah, I would just echo what Jeremy said. For me, that's something that's really stood out is, like you said, like the faculty and the support, particularly with research. Like Michael said, like the opportunities for research are crazy here. And even within research, I think a lot of the faculty and physicians leading the research are aligned with what your goals are as a student. So when I first started doing research, I was like, oh, I wonder if they're going to know like that I need publications, that I need stuff that's not going to take 4 years. Like I need something that I will finish up by the time I graduate. And I feel like everyone's very understanding and goes out of their way to make sure that you have the research projects that benefit you the most. So that's really nice.
Cool. So Becky, looks like you have a question. We'll hit that before we go back to the chat.
Yeah, I'm a postdoc here at Hopkins, and I actually grew up in like the LA area. So I'm curious about, you'd mentioned um, a big like service orientation and like seeking applicants who want to serve the community. And I was just wondering, like, what organizations are you all working with, and like what are opportunities for involvement within the community?
Feel free to jump on in there, Jeremy and Claire.
Yeah, so during orientation, Keck kind of like takes this responsibility of introducing about a cohort of, I'd say like, actually it kind of depends on the program, but they are kind of tied to, at least the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, tied to so many community organizations within the LA area, particularly like within like the region, because LA is very large, right? So maybe not every part of LA. But that introduction during orientation, not only is it incredibly fulfilling to kind of like, you know, actually get out there and bond with your, you know, classmates over this kind of thing. We call it Keck in the community. Um, but like you have the opportunity afterwards to kind of evaluate like, hey, maybe you really like this organization, and then you can sign up and become like, I guess, a kind of active volunteer and connect with the leaders in that. And usually they're all incredibly supportive, at least in my experience, and in terms of scheduling around classes, exams, and just like life in general. They're really good at kind of like allowing me to be flexible and getting my service hours. But I can tell you that the array of programs are just, yeah, it's super diverse all over the place.
Yeah, I'll just add to something I really like about it is there's a good mix of clinical volunteering, but also non-clinical. So from the clinical aspect, if there's a specialty you're really interested in, a lot of the times the SIGs, like Michael was saying, like if you're interested in ophthalmology, the ophthalmology SIG will send out volunteering to give out glasses to people at LA General. Or for any specialty, really, they have opportunities. But I think that's really cool because you learn about a specialty more. You can meet residents and faculty, but also you're still like interacting with the community. So just there's a real breadth of opportunities. Something that I signed up for that I'm interested in is called Homeboy Industries. So it's for previously incarcerated people in LA, and you basically help them find like job opportunities and lead workshops for them. So I think I'm leading a workshop on cancer screening in the upcoming weeks.
Great. We also have a more formal arm of the community engagement with Keck in the community, and it's called what is it called? The link to it is in the chat on that link tree, but it's the Office of Community Engagement, and they have like more formal ties with many of the nonprofit organizations in the greater Los Angeles area. The students can kind of sample that. People who are trying to find the community that they want to be engaged with and committed to can also use that as a way to kind of check out the options there as well. Sierra, did you have a question?
Hi, yes. I also had a question. My name's Sierra Tyson. I'm also in the post-bac at Hopkins. And I was just wondering how your evaluation of career-changing post-bacs differs from traditional applicants. Is there any extra expectations that I should be keeping in mind? And then Claire, heard that you took a few post-bac classes. So I was wondering if you have like a really good piece of advice for someone like me making the transition, or just something that has really helped you.
I'll just go ahead first and say our class size is 120. We just our last incoming class is 120, and that's the first of that size cohort. And previously is 186 each year. But in the past 5 or 6 years or so, we've had 80 plus people incoming in each class that had been out of school for 2 years or more. So I think people that take a gap year or two, tend to be more like well-rounded, as far as their application materials, their ability to communicate with the faculty and staff and things like that. They seem to kind of have like a little bit more self-knowledge and be a little more settled. So I think that bodes well for most folks. Um, yeah, but there's no different kind of way we screen people that have been out for a while. And it kind of depends. Like, I mean, one of the things they're looking for is making sure that people are coming into the field, giving themselves enough opportunities to even be able to foreclose on a career in medicine. So as far as a career shifter, the reviewer is definitely going to be looking to make sure that the person knows if they're getting themselves into, making sure that they've had enough experiences to really be able to say that this is for them and that they can anticipate some of the challenges. So as long as your written application, you express that your maturity and your thoughtfulness in choosing the field and preparing yourself, you shouldn't have any problems at all in that regard. And I'll let Claire answer that other part of that question.
Yeah, I just want to say I may be biased, but I feel like taking time off is actually really, really beneficial. I was kind of worried coming in, especially because I think our class is on the younger side than usual. Like a lot of people in my small group class, like 21. I know some people that are 18, 20, which is kind of crazy.
Mhm.
I'm 24, so I was like, oh, I'm like 6 years older than you. But I think it helps a lot just in maturity. And then even from like the interview process, I think it's a lot easier because you're more self-aware. You have more stories, more like ways, I guess, to answer interview questions. And then even from the patient aspect, like we do a lot of like clinical stuff now, and one of our classes called ICM, but it's a lot easier to talk to patients when you've had more life experiences, I guess, than just coming straight from college. So I'm definitely pro gap year, so don't feel bad about that. If anything, I think you have a leg up in a way. Post-bac wise, so I didn't take a formal post-bac. I just took some classes because I did bad in a few classes and I needed some classes that I hadn't taken yet. And then, so while I was taking those classes, I had kind of a mentor that I was talking to, and they basically told me not to worry about the GPA itself, and that really what you should be focusing on is like your extracurriculars and your MCAT. So at that point, I just kind of stopped with the post-bac. I was like, you know what, let me just like switch gears. And I can't really fix my GPA, but what I can do is like work towards the MCAT and keep volunteering, keep getting those extracurriculars. So
That's
Right.
great advice. Thank you.
Um, Another question in the chat, MD PhD option, is that an option at USC? Yes, our MD PhD program is in conjunction with California Tech, California Institute of Technology. We call it Caltech here. Any of their PhDs that they offer, or any of the Keck USC PhDs are open for that. And most people, take their research, PhD research in a hard science area, but there have been people that have done a humanities related PhD as well. So I think somebody's doing one in anthropology or medical anthropology or something like that. So that that's a possibility, but I can't say for sure that every liberal humanities PhD would be accepted, but they're really open to that. Another question in the chat, does taking the MCAT more than 3 times give the applicant a significant disadvantage? What if they significantly improved on their 4th try and is waiting to reapply? That's a tough question because most people that take the MCAT multiple times don't do much better than their first time. Matter of fact, most of the times when I look at that, I see people, their scores go down a little bit. So it's that definitely will make a reviewer kind of scrutinize your academics and a little closer if you take an MCAT, more than 2 or 3 times, because they're wondering, like, have you really found your kind of learning gear, like how you learn, what type of learner you are you seeking support, all of those kinds of questions come into play, because I mean, we have a ton of resources here, but they are looking to see that people can kind of be self-regulated to a degree, here in this MD curriculum environment. So yeah, it just depends on the situation. It's kind of hard to say how they would view that in advance. But yeah, a fourth try, and then sometimes I've seen it the opposite, where people have a great, or a decent MCAT score, 510 or whatever, whatever the national average is, and they keep taking it because they're perfectionists and they want to get, closer to 520 or something like that. And that's definitely a red flag, because one of the things that, they're kind of reviewing for are people who are not, going to be like perfectionists like that. We're not really looking for a perfect, the perfect GPA and the perfect MCAT. Those are just baseline measures of an applicant's ability to get through the MD curriculum. The more important stuff are those competencies and, your life experiences and how you talk about that, and, your values and your interests. So don't get too hung up on the metrics. See another one. What are some courses or internships that are included in your health justice certificate program? You'll have to go to our curriculum site to get a full explanation or description of that component of the program. It's pretty broad. There are about 9 different kind of subspecialties associated with that. But Claire or Jeremy, if you know a little bit more of the intricacies of that program, please feel free to share.
I'm not like too incredibly informed. However, our current experiences have related to like just like coursework, right, rather than like internships. And I would say the general gist of what we had so far, and things might change. I'm not entirely sure. You probably should look it up, but we have this combination of kind of like bringing in guest lecturers, right? Perhaps in like a certain area of like, health justice, and kind of like listening to that and diving in deep into like a topic, generally on our own as well. There's like maybe some kind of supplemental reading or video to watch or something along those lines. And then we kind of get together in smaller set like groups in the class, and I'd say about like 20 or so people, and then kind of just like tackle a lot of these like kind of core health justice issues, health inequality issues, and kind of try and shape us into like, more, I guess like better doctors, more well-rounded doctors.
Good. Let's see. Another question. What are some courses? Yeah, that was it. Any other questions? This laptop is really crimping my style here. Sorry about that. Let's see. Can you please provide us with some contact information in case we have more questions in the future? Yeah, I'll put our admissions contact information in the chat, and feel free to email with the questions, and I'm happy to get back to you and answer any questions. Can't really provide personalized advice, but I'm happy to answer questions about our program, selection process, or anything like that. Let me get that and put that in there right now. Are there any more questions? We're happy to answer more questions if you have them. All right. right, one from Samuel. Is community service something that is emphasized in the USC application process? It seems as if GPA MCAT isn't that significant when deciding who to accept. Also, how is life as a USC med student different from life as a Hopkins student? That's a good one. Yeah, the service, community services is number one at the top of the competencies list that our reviewers look for. So much so that the interview evaluation, the rubric that our interviewers use is rooted in the competencies. So that's kind of what they're kind of evaluating you on. So the more in touch you are with your development, your own growth and development, and preparedness in regards to the competencies, the better off you will fare. Community service definitely emphasized. We have a community service requirement, mandatory component of the curriculum that's community service oriented for our first year students as well. So yeah, we take that very seriously. And like I said, we hope that people want to come and be a part of this, providing service to this community here. So yeah, that's very big for us. And I'll let Claire and Jeremy go with the student comparison there, student life.
I can start with this. I think it's way better, like 100 times better. For me personally, like weather is really, really important. Um, and the Baltimore East Coast weather is not my favorite. So being in LA, like every day, perfect weather, I feel like that just has a big impact on your mental health and your willingness to study. So I guess from that aspect, it's a lot better. Also, I would just say I think the school environment itself is better. Like Michael said, it's pass fail, which is really, really important. Like med school or college at Hopkins, I feel like everyone's like, oh, I just need an A. I don't want to hurt my GPA. But in med school, it's super collaborative. People share Anki decks all the time in our like Discord chat to help study for the test, which I'm always shocked every time I see it because I feel like in Hopkins, that's something no one would ever do. Like no one's going to share their notes. At least the circles I was in, no one was going to share their notes with you or try to help you study. But at USC, like people are very willing to meet up with you. And it's just a really great environment to be in. It makes school a lot less stressful and actually very enjoyable.
Yeah, I think it's like a little hard for me to compare because I just think like the nature of like, undergrad versus med school is like very different. However, I can definitely say that the weather is definitely nicer, like the really humid summers, like, not really a thing here. Really cold winters, not really a thing. So that's just like nice in general. However, I will kind of say that like I was not like I guess like everyone's kind of major is different. But I feel as if I have a much stronger connection to the people like directly around me and kind of learning alongside me in a way that I couldn't really get at Hopkins for one reason or another. But as I said, I think it's like a testament to how well Keck crafts their classes. And as Claire said, like it's pass fail, and that's just like it makes it so nice, so much nicer. I think, than like the grind of undergrad and trying to maintain a GPA while balancing a lot of other
May I
things.
also bother you for a plastic bag? I have to
Oh.
walk a long way. Thank you.
Um, I would say that kind of like on top of things, I know a lot of people tend to have questions about like, oh, like, what do like, students like do students have time to like go do other things? And I think it very much is like after our exam on Wednesday, like I am like, because not every kind of piece of course material is required. I'm going to be like flying right after the exam and going to be like in Wisconsin until like Sunday, right? And it's like in the middle of like school, right? Because, if things aren't required, if things are like past, it gives you a lot more like flexibility to kind of pick and choose, when you want to be and when you want to be there and like, what things you want to do. And I don't know, I think it's just a lot different.
Thanks, Jeremy. Claire, appreciate that. So the weather is definitely a plus. So consider that when when you're applying to med schools. Does anyone have any other questions?
There's two other questions in the chat, Michael.
Oh, okay. Okay. Is MD PhD interview cycle different to MD interview cycle? Yeah, the MD PhD interview cycle differs in that you'll have an initial interview with an MD PhD student and one of our faculty, and then depending on what your research interests are, and in the application, in the supplemental application, they ask if you are familiar with any of the research of our faculty researchers, and they try to set you up with interviews with anyone that you might be interested in. So a PhD applicant might interview with 3, 4, 5 different people on that given interview day. So that's one thing that's different. Other than that, there's fewer interview days for the MD PhD program. I believe we get close to 200 applications for that program, and we interview maybe 30, 40 people for the program, and they accept typically 4 people matriculate, 4, maybe 5 people will matriculate. And I forgot to mention that they provide a $45,000 a year stipend to people accepted into that program, as well as all of the other educational costs are free. So great. That's a great program if you are research oriented and still would like to earn an MD degree as well. But yeah, those are the big difference in that interview cycle. Other than that, I think one of the things though I will say about MD PhD program, you still have to cut the mustard as an MD applicant. Like, those core competencies have to be evident. You can't just solely rely on research and think that's going to carry the day. So that's one thing to be aware of.
We also have a student question from Rachel.
From Rachel, you said?
Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm looking for the mute button. Basically, it is, what does the financial support from USC look like?
We typically, our last class of 120 folks, I think we gave out close to 40 1- and 2-year scholarships, and with a couple of full tuition scholarships thrown in to members of the incoming class. But the bulk of our MD students that get scholarship funds get them through our Norman Topping scholarship fund. That's part of the donor network that USC has once they matriculate. So we give out those initial scholarships. We call them recruitment scholarships. And once people matriculate, they are eligible to apply to various scholarships that are offered through our financial aid office and other donor network types of funds that are available.
Looks like there's another question popped up in the chat. Does USC have an MD MPH program, and what is that timeline experience like?
We do. That program is open to our students who are in their 3rd year in academic good standing, and typically people will take the MPH year of instruction between years 3 and 4 of the medical school curriculum. So they will, complete the didactic portion and the clerkship rotations of 3rd year, and then go to main campus. That's where the MPH coursework would be taken, and do that for a 1 year, come back, complete year 4, which is going to be residency applications and selective clerkships, and then graduate after 5 years with both degrees. And we actually, it's up for review each year, but every year I've been here, this USC has funded the tuition fully for the MPH portion of that. It's pretty popular. I think we get about 15 to 20 people each year that opt for that. Hi, Vivian.
Hi, thank you all for doing this. I've seen online that Keck accepts majority of in-state students. So I was wondering if there's anything specific that Keck was looking for out-of-state candidates.
You know, we don't really have a preference on that. It typically breaks down to like 75% California students and 25-30% varies of out-of-state students, but we don't have a preference. It's just that the majority of people that apply to our school are California residents. Um, and for some reason, year after year, UCLA provides the most incoming students into our program. They have a huge pre-med cohort each year. I think there's enough USC or UCLA med pre-meds to fill every seat in California every year. So yeah, it's just a numbers thing. We don't really have a preference. We're a private school, so. What are some qualities you tend to see a lot with Hopkins undergrad students when reviewing applications? You know, I don't really typically, I don't review and vote on applicants, but I do look at applications just to kind of see what people are doing right and what they're not doing that's not so right. But I don't really, associate that with a particular school or anything. But as far as I can tell, Hopkins, is a pretty great school. So it's kind of right up there with the best schools in the country. So. I don't think our reviewers really focus a whole lot on the undergraduate school or even the undergraduate major for that matter. They really are just trying to get to know you, um, as a human being and trying to discern like what your interests are, your values, and who you are as a person. The really that whole metric part of it is really just that's probably the least time consuming part of the review. It's pretty easy to look at your coursework and your MCAT score and say, yeah, this person can get through the MD curriculum now. Do we want them in our program? So, what type of person are they and what have they done to prepare themselves? I think that's a little bit more of how they're looking at it. One thing that I'll say about our students is that, and I'm sure this goes for medical students around the country. I don't mean to single out our students, but it looks like a lot of their extracurriculars and things they've done to prepare themselves, it looks like they would do those things even if they weren't going to medical school. They would still have that community of interest. They would still be engaged with that community no matter what. So, that's a very desirable trait of an applicant. People that that are who they, their service orientation, their drive to embark upon, whatever career choice they choose. Um, that's a very desirable thing that reviewers are really looking for in an applicant. But I can say, like, to a person, like, I can walk out on the quad right now and grab anybody and ask them, their story, their community of interest, and they'll talk my ear off about it, without any prompting or notes or anything. So that's kind of what we're looking for.
I think we have time for one more question if anyone has one. Okay, I'm going to take that as a signal that you've answered everyone's questions. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been really informative, and I think it really will help students to have a better understanding of how this might fit in with their goals for their medical education. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to our alum. So excited to see you and hear about the great things that you're doing, and we'll be sure to be connecting with you all in the future.
Well, thanks for inviting us. It's our pleasure. So yeah, we should do this again in another academic period.
Great. Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you,
You too.
everyone.
Have a good night.
Nice to meet you.